My daughter-in-law told her friends, "This old woman is our maid." I listened silently, because I knew tomorrow I would surprise her. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever been treated like a guest in your own home? Do you know that feeling when someone makes you feel invisible in a place where you should feel most secure? This isn't just a story. This is my life. And everything changed with that one sentence. If you've learned to endure silently, stay with me. Don't forget to subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. My name is Margaret. I'm 58 years old. I've lived in this house for 25 years. But 3 months ago, my life was completely turned upside down. When my son Michael got married, his wife Sarah moved into this house, and from the very first day, she treated me like I was unwanted here. Sarah is beautiful, educated, and confident. She's 26 years old and someone who's gotten everything she wanted her whole life. She comes from a wealthy family, drives a luxury car, and carries designer handbags. I wasn't surprised that Michael fell in love with her. But when she first saw me, that look on her face. She wrinkled her nose like she'd encountered something unpleasant. The house Michael brought her to isn't small. It's a 4-bedroom colonial with a large backyard, hardwood floors, and a kitchen I renovated myself 5 years ago. It sits on 2 acres in a quiet neighborhood where property values have steadily climbed. To Sarah, it must have seemed like the perfect starter mansion for a young couple. I tried to stay calm the first week. Maybe it's just an adjustment period, I thought. Moving in with your mother-in-law can't be easy for any woman. But Sarah's attitude got worse, day by day. When she came down to the kitchen in the mornings, she would ask, "Is breakfast ready?" Without saying please, or would you mind? It wasn't a question. It was an expectation. Can you pick up the laundry? Grocery shopping is your job now. Make dinner. I'm tired. Clean the guest bathroom. My friends are coming over. These weren't requests. They were orders delivered with the casual authority of someone who'd never been told no. And I, like a fool, would respond, "Of course, dear." Because I wanted my son to be happy. Because I didn't want to be the difficult mother-in-law who caused problems in his marriage. When Michael came home from work, I tried to explain the situation delicately. "Son, I think there might be some confusion about household responsibilities," I said. But he, in his newlywed bliss, brushed off my concerns. "Mum, be patient with her. She's getting used to being a housewife. She's never had to manage a household before." Getting used to being a housewife. In my house. With my dishes, my furniture, my carefully tended garden. Things got worse in the second week. Sarah started addressing me not as Mrs. Margaret, or even Margaret, but just as you. "You do this? You bring that?" As if I didn't even have a name worth remembering. She would leave her clothes on the bathroom floor, expecting me to pick them up. She'd use every pot in the kitchen to make a simple meal, then walk away, leaving the mess for me to clean. One evening, I was folding laundry in the utility room when I overheard her on the phone with her sister. The laundry room is right next to the kitchen, and voices carry. "Jessica, you wouldn't believe how perfect this setup is," she was saying. "Michael's mother does everything, and I mean everything. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, even organizing my closet when I asked her to. It's like having a live-in housekeeper, except she's grateful to be here." Her sister must have asked something because Sarah laughed. "No, of course not. Why would I pay her? She's living in her son's house for free. She should be contributing somehow, right?" That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy with a pain I couldn't name. So this was how she saw me. Not as Michael's mother. Not as a woman who had lived and loved and lost in this house for decades. just as unpaid help who should be grateful for the privilege of serving her. The breaking point came in the third week. Sarah announced that her college sorority sisters were coming for a weekend visit. 5 women, all polished and confident like Sarah. I spent 2 days preparing the guest rooms, buying special groceries, planning meals that would impress her friends. When they arrived on Friday evening, I was in the kitchen preparing appetizers. Through the pass-through window, I could see them settling into my living room, admiring the antique furniture I'd collected over the years, the family photos on the mantel, the Persian rug that had been my mother's. "Sarah, this place is gorgeous," one of them exclaimed. "You're so lucky Michael's family has such good taste." "Actually," Sarah said, and I could hear the pride in her voice. "Most of this stuff was here when we moved in. Michael's father had good taste, I guess. But we're planning to redecorate soon, make it more modern." They spent the evening drinking wine and catching up. I served dinner, cleaned up afterward, made sure they had fresh towels and everything they needed. Sarah barely acknowledged my presence, except to point out that the wine glasses needed refilling or that someone had spilled something on the coffee table. Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen making breakfast for 6 when I heard the conversation that changed everything. They thought I was upstairs, I suppose. Or maybe they simply didn't care if I heard. "Sarah, how do you manage this huge house?" asked Amanda, a blonde with perfectly manicured nails. "Do you have a cleaning service?" "Better than a cleaning service," Sarah replied. "Michael's mother lives here. She takes care of everything." "Wait, your mother-in-law lives with you?" This was Jessica, Sarah's sister, who had driven down from Boston. "How do you stand it?" "I would die if I had to live with David's mother." Sarah's laugh was light, dismissive. "Oh, it's not like that. She's not really living with us. She's more like— how do I put this? This old woman is our maid, basically. She cooks, she cleans, she does the laundry, Michael's mother, but now she stays here to handle our affairs." "No way!" Amanda squealed. "You have a live-in mother-in-law who works as your maid? How did you manage that?" "I didn't manage anything," Sarah said smugly. "She just fell into the role naturally. Some people are just born to serve, I guess. And she seems happy enough. She gets to live in this beautiful house and spend time with her precious son." Jessica pressed further. "But don't you feel weird about it, having his mother wait on you?" "Why should I feel weird? She's not doing me any favors. This is Michael's house now, and if she wants to stay, she needs to contribute somehow. It's not like she has anywhere else to go." The cruelest cut came next. "Besides," Sarah continued, "it's actually perfect. I get to play the sweet, grateful daughter-in-law while she does all the work. Michael thinks I'm wonderful because his mother seems so happy. He has no idea I've never lifted a finger around here." They all erupted in laughter. Emma, who had been quiet until now, said, "You're terrible, Sarah." "But honestly, I'm jealous. My mother-in-law expects me to wait on her when she visits." "The trick," Sarah said, and I could hear her getting up, probably refilling her coffee cup, "is to establish dominance early. I made it clear from day one that this was my house now, and she needed to find her place in it. She chose to make herself useful, rather than be unwanted." My heart stopped at that moment. My hands, wet with dishwater, began to tremble. But I continued listening, my ear pressed to the kitchen door. "What does Michael think about all this?" asked Jessica. "Michael doesn't think about it at all. Men never notice domestic stuff unless it's not getting done. As far as he knows, we're just one big happy family. His mother adores me, I adore her, and everything runs smoothly. He gets a clean house, home-cooked meals, and a wife who's never stressed about housework. Why would he question it? Amanda asked the question I was dreading. But what if she gets tired of it? What if she wants to stop playing maid? Sarah's response chilled me to the bone. Where's she going to go? She's 58. She has no job, no other family. This is her best option. She knows it, and I know it. Besides, I think she actually likes feeling needed. Some women are just natural caregivers. When I brought them fresh coffee and pastries, I smiled and asked if they needed anything else. Sarah looked at me with that same dismissive glance she'd been perfecting for weeks. We're fine, she said without looking at me. You can go do whatever you need to do. I was being dismissed from my own living room by a woman who thought she owned the place and me along with it. That night, after her friends had gone to bed and Michael had fallen asleep, I sat alone in the kitchen where I'd shared so many conversations with my late husband, Robert. This kitchen where we'd planned our dreams, worried about bills, celebrated Michael's achievements. Where Robert had held my hand during his final months, promising me that I'd always have a home here. I looked around at the room I'd painted 3 times over the years, at the cabinet handles I'd replaced when the originals wore out, at the window over the sink where I'd hung curtains I'd sewn myself. Every inch of this house held my memories, my choices, my life. And tomorrow, I decided, Sarah would learn the truth. Sunday morning arrived grey and quiet. Sarah's friends were leaving after brunch, and I wanted witnesses for what was about to happen. I waited until they were all gathered in the dining room, enjoying the elaborate spread I'd prepared one last time as their unacknowledged servant. Sarah, dear, I said, entering the dining room with a folder in my hands. There's something important we need to discuss. She looked annoyed at the interruption. Can't it wait? My friends are leaving soon. Actually, I think they might be interested in this too, I said calmly, setting the folder on the table. It's about the house. Sarah's expression shifted slightly. What about the house? Michael had just walked in from his morning run, still in his workout clothes. What's going on? He asked, seeing us all gathered around the table. I opened the folder and pulled out the property deed. I wanted to show everyone something important, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. This is the deed to this house. I held it up so everyone could see the header clearly. As you can see, the legal owner of this property is Margaret Elizabeth Thompson. That's me. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's face drained of all colour. Her friends looked confused, glancing between Sarah and me. Michael stood frozen in the doorway. Mom? Michael said slowly. What are you saying? I sat down and began to explain, my voice calm but firm. When your father Robert died 5 years ago, he had substantial medical debts. The hospital bills, the treatments that insurance didn't cover, the experimental medications we tried, it all added up to more than $200,000. Sarah was staring at the deed as if it might disappear if she looked away. This house was going into foreclosure, I continued. Your father had taken out a second mortgage to pay for his treatments, and after he died, I couldn't keep up with the payments on my grief counselor salary alone. Michael sank into a chair. Mum, why didn't you tell me? I could have helped. You were just starting your career, son. You had your own student loans, your own life to build. I wasn't going to burden you with that. I looked around the table, making eye contact with each of Sarah's friends. So I liquidated everything I had. My retirement account, my late mother's jewelry, the small inheritance from my parents. I sold the antique shop downtown that had been in my family for 3 generations. Amanda shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Jessica had stopped eating. It was enough to pay off the debts and keep the house, but the only way to protect it legally was to put the deed in my name alone. I've been the sole owner of this property for 5 years. Sarah found her voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. But Michael thought the house had been left to him in his father's will, I said gently. I let him believe that, because I wanted him to feel like this was his home too. I never imagined it would become an issue. I turned to Sarah's friends, who were listening with obvious discomfort. You see, ladies, when Sarah moved in and began treating me like hired help, I was too shocked to correct the misunderstanding immediately. I thought perhaps she was just adjusting to the situation, that she'd realize her mistake in time. Emma, the quietest of Sarah's friends, spoke up. We didn't know. We thought... Sarah said this was Michael's family house. It is a family house, I said. But it's my house. I've lived here for 25 years, raised my son here, cared for my dying husband here. Every mortgage payment, every repair, every improvement has been my responsibility and my investment. Sarah was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I thought... You thought I was a pathetic old woman with nowhere else to go, I said, not unkindly. You thought I was grateful for the chance to serve you in exchange for a place to live. Michael stood up abruptly, his face red with embarrassment and anger. Sarah, is this true? Have you been treating my mother like a servant? Before Sarah could answer, Jessica, who had been recording everything on her phone, spoke up. We heard her yesterday. She called Margaret her maid. She said she established dominance early. The room fell silent, except for Sarah's quiet sobbing. I reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. Dear, I want you to understand something. I'm not telling you this to humiliate you or to kick you out. You're my son's wife, which makes you family. But family means respect. It means partnership. It means treating each other as equals. Sarah looked up at me through her tears. I've been horrible to you. I've been so horrible. You made assumptions, I said, and I let you make them because I was trying to keep peace in my son's marriage. But yesterday, when I heard you laughing about manipulating Michael and describing me as someone who was born to serve, I realized that kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's enabling. Michael was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you. Son, you're not responsible for reading minds. But going forward, I need both of you to understand how this household is going to work. I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in months. This is my home. I'm happy to share it with both of you, but as an equal member of this family, not as unpaid help. Sarah, if you want to live here, you'll need to contribute to the household tasks. Treat me with respect, and never again refer to me as anyone's maid. Sarah nodded frantically. Yes, of course. I'll do anything to make this right. I'll cook. I'll clean. You'll learn to be a partner, I interrupted gently. Not a boss, not a servant. A partner. As Sarah's friends gathered their things to leave, Amanda approached me quietly. Mrs. Thompson, I owe you an apology too. We should have said something when we heard how Sarah was talking about you. Thank you for that, I said. But this was a lesson we all needed to learn. After everyone left, the three of us sat in my living room, and had the most honest conversation we'd ever had. Sarah apologized repeatedly, promising to change. Michael apologized for being oblivious to the situation. And I explained that while I forgave them both, things would be different going forward. That was 6 months ago. Sarah kept her promise. She learned to cook, took over the grocery shopping, and insisted on doing her own laundry. More importantly, she began treating me like a person whose opinions mattered, whose presence was valued. Last week, she came to me with news that brought tears to my eyes. "Mom, Margaret," she said. She'd started calling me Mom after our talk. "I'm pregnant. And if it's a girl, we'd like to name her Margaret, after you." "Why?" I asked, though I think I already knew. "Because you taught me what real strength looks like. You showed me that dignity doesn't come from having power over others. It comes from knowing your own worth and insisting that others recognize it too." Today, as I write this story, I'm sitting in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I once felt like an unwelcome guest. Sarah is upstairs resting, dealing with morning sickness. Michael is at work, knowing that he's coming home to a house where everyone is treated with love and respect. This story taught me something important. Sometimes the greatest kindness we can show someone is to stop enabling their worst behavior. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply know your own worth and refuse to accept anything less. I listened silently that day when Sarah called me their maid because I knew tomorrow I would surprise her. And that surprise didn't just change how she saw me, it changed how I saw myself. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt invisible in your own life, remember, you have the power to make yourself seen. Don't forget to subscribe, and please share in the comments if you've ever had to stand up for your own worth.